Hi everyone, my name is Diana. Welcome back to my sewing room. Today we are going to talk about my favorite Deb Tucker tool. It's called the Rapid Fire Lemoyne Star, and it makes gorgeous Lemoyne Star blocks without any Y seams and without any biased edges on the outside of your block. This is what the tool looks like. It comes just like this in a large package. This part here is your instructions, and as you can see, it's pretty large. It's a little bit unwieldy. It's not 8.5 by 11, so it won't fit in a binder. So once again, I do recommend that you go to studio180design.net and go to the bottom of the page and look for free downloads and look for the instructions on this, and then you can print it out, punch a hole in it, put it into your 3-ring binder. It's also a whole lot easier to work with as you're going through the steps because there are several steps that go with this process. The other great thing about this tool is on the back, it comes with a pattern that you can make a Lemoyne Star sampler. And Deb is really great because one of the things that she does with her tools is she produces something called technique sheets. And her technique sheets allow you to do more than one thing with the tool. So of course, these are the basic instructions. This is the star with the basic instructions with the tool. But she has, with this particular tool, she's got several technique sheets that go with it. There are 7 in total, and I've got samples of almost all of them here in several different sizes. The basic stars can be as small as 3 inches. She's got another technique called Lemoyne's triangles. This is a half Lemoyne block put into a half square triangle, and it's really great for doing on the edges of your quilts, things like that. These pieces that you see me going through here are actually going to be that sampler quilt. I just haven't put the whole thing together yet. This is one called Strip Piece to Lemoyne. This is another called Starburst Lemoyne. This is a Liberty Lemoyne Star. This is a banded Lemoyne Star because of the beautiful band that's on the outside. And then there's another one called the Blazing Lemoyne Star. And as you can see here, I had a little bit of snafu. I'm choosing to call it Design Element. I meant to have my colors rotating, but instead this is what I ended up with. So as you can see, everybody makes mistakes. One of the other things that I would recommend that you do with this tool is, I talked about in one of my videos last week, I talked about Invisigrip, and that is a cling that you can put on the back of your ruler, and I put it on the back of all of my Deb Tucker rulers. And one of the reasons you'll want to do that with this particular tool is because, number one, you have a very small point that you're going to be trimming around to get those points nice and sharp. The other reason is, and you can see here, I have drawn on the back of my tool with some Sharpie, and this allows me to do some of these other techniques that I talked about, the Blazing Lemoyne Star, the Starburst Lemoyne Star, things like that. So there's another technique called a fussy cut. I did not show you that one because that is, you need to have a repeat on your fabric to be able to do that, and batiks don't have a repeat, so I was unable to do a fussy cut for this particular project. But up here is the section where you cut for your fussy cut, and down here is the area where you cut for your points. And I'm going to go over all that with you in just a second. Another tool that I recommend that you have with this particular method is the Tucker trimmer. And it comes in 3 different sizes, and the 2 sizes that you'd use for this one are the Tucker Trimmer 1. This makes squares from as small as 1 inch to 6.5 inches. And then there's a larger one, and this may be a little bit more difficult to see, so I'll have my cameraman focus down here. This is the Tucker Trimmer 3. This goes from 1 inch to 13 inches. So this is really helpful when it comes to squaring up your blocks. And again, I'll talk about that in just a minute. So I am going to go ahead and show you how to make the basic Lemoyne star. I do offer classes at the shop on all of these different techniques. As a matter of fact, it's one that we keep on the calendar because it is so popular. So this technique is taught in the shop along with all of the technique sheets that go along with it. So the first thing that you're going to do when you're starting out with this particular technique is you are going to sew strip sets together, and all of the sizes that you need to do are right there in your directions. And you are going to sew some strip sets together, and Deb gives you the sizes and the ways to press these so that when you're putting your final block together, everything nests. And that's one thing that's really important with this technique, is that you do know how to press your seams. And again, like I said, Deb goes over all of that in the directions. So the next thing that you're going to do once you get your strip sets together is you are going to layer them right sides together. And because of the way they are pressed, these seams are going to nest. And what I want to do is make sure that they're nested well and that the seams butt right up against each other. And I like to tell people that kind of feels like a zipper at that point. So then the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to make a 45-degree cut on your strip sets. And as you can see for this particular set, I have already done that. And then you are going to cut your diamonds that go into your block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a regular ruler. I'm going to align it on the piece that I just trimmed. And the size again will be on your directions. And I'm going to trim. And I'm going to set those two pieces aside, and I'm going to leave them laying together. And I'm going to continue to cut down my strip until I have the number of pieces required for each block. And you need 4 of these units, so 8 total, but 4 is what you're going to cut since you have them layered together. So I will go ahead and I'll cut one more. And then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to leave those pieces together. And again, just like all of her other tools, these are oversized pieces, so you will be trimming everything down. So I've got everything lined up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the top piece of that background strip. And what that does is it gives me 2 more triangles. So what you are left with are pieces that look like this. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to lay them out the way that directions tell you, and you're going to add the side triangles onto your pieces, if I can get them apart. You're going to add the side triangles onto your pieces. You're going to take them over to your sewing machine, and you're going to sew these on using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And as you can see, again, these are a little bit oversized. So what I tend to do is I layer my diamond sets on top of my side triangles, and I try to allow for about an equal amount of the side triangles on each side hanging over. And again, these are oversized. These will be trimmed down. So once you've done that, you are going to end up with pieces that look like this. And I call these pizza wedges. And before you can sew them together, you do need to trim them down, and that's where the Lemoyne Star tool comes in. And again, these are pressed in a certain direction so that they will nest when you go to put everything together. So I am now going to take my Lemoyne Star tool, and I am making a 6-inch block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 6-inch line right here, and I am going to line it up on this seam line here, and I'm going to go ahead and trim, and I'll show you how you do that right now. What you'll want to do is make sure that your piece is facing about 2 o'clock. If you are left-handed, it's going to be the opposite direction, and those are in the instructions. So I have my seam lines aligned with that 6-inch line on the ruler. and I'm going to trim the excess. And now I have my trim down wedge, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I'm going to trim that one down as well. And if you're a little bit squeamish about the possibility of trimming around the tip of this ruler, I recommend that you get a 28mm rotary cutter. It does make it a little bit easier to get around that point. So once again, I'm going to trim. And then I'm going to take these two pieces to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew them together on the long side. And once you put these together, you will see that because you press them a certain way, your seams right here are going to nest. Those seams right there will nest. So once you've done that, you then have 4 pieces that look just like this. And at this point, your tucker trimmer comes into play for the first time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tucker trimmer and I'm going to line up the common diagonal with that diagonal seam on my unit. I'm going to lay that right there, and what I'm going to do is what Deb calls a whisker trim. And you may have a little bit of excess here, you may not, but you're going to trim it, and as you can see I had just a little bit of excess, and what that does is it gives me a perfect 90-degree angle to finish sewing my pieces together. And you're going to sew this together just the way you would a regular 4-patch. And what you end up with is a unit that looks just like this. Now, as you can see, the outside is wonky. It's not square, but that's where the second trim on our tucker trimmer comes in. And as you can see here, I've got a perfect point in the middle because my pieces were trimmed down prior to me putting the block together. And on the back, you can see all of my seams are either nested or pressed open depending on the step that I'm on. So what I'm going to do to finish the block up is I am going to take my tucker trimmer, and since this is a 6-inch finished piece and a 6.5-inch unfinished piece, I'm going to line my common diagonal up with the diagonal right here. So this common diagonal will be lined right here. And then my 6.5-inch line on my ruler is going to line up here. And that's going to allow me to have perfect 1/4-inch seams on my points, so none of my points will get cut off. So I've got that square right in the middle of my rule, or right in the middle of my block. My ruler is right there. I'm going to trim the pieces off. And as you can see, there is a little bit of waste with this, but when you get perfect blocks every time, it's worth it. I'm going to rotate my unit 180 degrees. I'm going to line up my 6.5-inch lines here, my 6.5-inch line here, and my common diagonal line here, and I'm going to make my final trim. And there I have a perfectly sized Lemoyne Star block with no Y seams and no biased edges on the outside. And again, like I said, your points come out perfectly because you were able to trim the pieces down before you put the block together. And as you can see here, I've got a perfect 1/4-inch seam so that none of my tips will get sewn into my seam line. They'll be right there and I won't lose anything. So again, the Lemoyne Star tool, this is what I call the gateway tool. This was the tool that I first experienced Deb Tucker's tools with, and once I learned this, I realized I wanted to be able to make all different kinds of units. So this was kind of my gateway tool. It led me to get the tucker trimmer, the V block, the square and a square. You're also going to need some Invisigrip to put on the back of your ruler so that it doesn't slip as you're putting things together, and also so that you can write on the back of your ruler for any of the different techniques. Again, she does have several different technique sheets that go with this. And if you're interested in learning any of these, once we're able to hold classes in the shop again, I will be doing classes on all these different techniques. Wanted to remind you to go onto our main Facebook page. Daily they're posting different specials. They're posting new fabric that's coming in, new notions that are coming in. They talk about the different videos that we're going to be posting throughout the week. I will continue to do videos on Mondays and Thursdays for as long as we're under stay-at-home orders. Costa will also be doing videos throughout the week on different sewing techniques and on different embroidery techniques. Also want to remind you to go to the Wish Stay-at-Home Projects page, where we are posting our finished projects, and we're encouraging each other and giving each other help if we need it. If you have questions about a technique or about a product, you can ask it there, and one of us from the shop will get back to you. You can also call the shop during the week. They are open from 10 to 1, Monday through Saturday. They are doing curbside pickup. I'm going to have my cameraman focus over here for just a second. As you can see, Frank posted a picture of this. This is my new 550E that Frank gave to my husband when my husband did curbside pickup. They're running some great deals on this right now. Mother's Day is coming up. That is my Mother's Day gift from my husband and my son this year, which is just absolutely fantastic. Frank is also running specials on other machines. So if you are interested in a machine and want to hear about pricing, like I said, call the shop between 10 and 1 Monday through Saturday, and Frank or Costa can talk to you about machines and pricing. You're also available to do curbside pickup during those hours. They are practicing social distancing. They're doing everything they can to make sure that we get the supplies that we need to continue quilting and sewing. If you are not local to us, they are doing online orders, and Janice, Judy, and Katie, and Chris are in the process of filling those orders as quickly as they can. I know our shipping is very fast. So I just want to thank you again for continuing to tune in to our videos and for coming onto our Facebook page to see what we've got going. We really miss seeing all of our local customers. We can't wait to get back into the shop. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Hey everyone, I thought you might want to get a glimpse of Jacob the cameraman. Here he is.
Psych!